Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. It's dead on 12 o'clock, so we might just wait for a few people, everyone to come on in. So I'll just turn this off for a little while and wait for everyone to come in. I'll turn my audio off for a little bit. We shall begin. Thanks everyone for coming in today. Can I just request that before we start that you mute your microphones because on your computers, because it can cause feedback. So before we get started, I'd just like to, again, welcome everybody and if you could please save your questions until the end. You can put your questions in the chat forum there or in the Q&A, which is down the bottom of your screen. Facilitating today's webinar is a wonderful Richard Cordes, a long-term ACS member and pure advocate, personal professional development, and a highly knowledgeable IT professional, and just an all-round, genuinely top guy. Richard has decades of experience in diverse IT-related roles in New Zealand, Australia, and the US. He specialises in large-scale transformational programs. With his wealth of experience, he helps organisations and their C-suite realise their strategic objectives and vision through uplifting people, their processes, and their technology. Thank you, Richard. And for Charles, so I'll bring them in now. So come and sit down. This will be a very informal chat where Charles will share his experiences on his progress as probably from a student right up to now in his role as a CTO for BCI Technology. So thanks, Richard and Charles. I'll hand it over to you. Come and sit down.
Thank you. Thank you, Kylie.
And I'll see you again later.
Okay. I don't know if you can see me here well enough.
Yeah. Moving to your right, please. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's it. Nice and close.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. This webinar today is about you. It's about your career aspirations. We would love to hear your questions. Our guest today is Charles Tarel. He is the Chief Technologist for BCI Technology, a Brisbane-based company that applies world-class innovative systems thinking and practices to tame complexity. Charles has had an international information technology career, working in a variety of roles, including software development, systems administration, project management, requirements analysis, and solution enterprise architecture. Charles holds 2 bachelor degrees and 3 master's degrees encompassing information technology, project management, and business. His multidisciplinary qualifications give him a unique insight into IT-related business problems. Charles is an ACS certified professional. We welcome Charles.
Thank you.
Charles, if I might start, I wonder if you might start this conversation by me asking you to tell the audience about your career journey from the time you were at school to the present.
Oh, okay. My career journey. Well, some people would have already picked up on my accent. So I'm not Australian. So I grew up in France, and that's where I did primary and secondary studies. So that was in my hometown. Then I moved to Paris to go to university, and that's where I did my bachelor's in IT and then in project management. Then I pursued that to go to a Master of IT, and I found a job. We had compulsory internship, so I ended up going to my internship and finding a job. Worked really well. I was really happy there. Turned out though that I learned that really career path required me to have a business degree. At which point I decided, well, I may as well try to get one. At that point in time, my university was actually doing a partnership that just signed a partnership with Griffith University, and I decided to sign up for an MBA there. So here I go in Australia. Ended up doing an MBA, liking life in Australia. So I pursue a Master of Software Engineering which then qualified me for migration. And since then, I've been around.
Okay, thank you so much. What were some of the major challenges that you encountered on your career journey, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think most of the things that I've encountered that were challenges were mainly things that, I mean, there was definitely a cultural difference between my home country and Australia, and that was definitely a challenge. And that was both on the personal life and work related. The rest of the challenges, I suppose, is more learnings at the end of the day, up and downs.
So you mentioned about there being a bit of a cultural difference between France and Australia. And I've often heard people who have come in from overseas kind of struggle with that a little bit in Australia. Any thoughts or advice or experiences that you can share about how you can?
I think it's mostly, I mean, the biggest things for me is that we probably, I mean, at least where I come from, and I don't want to generalize for every single French person in the world, but we tend to be a little bit more hierarchical, a little bit more structure-based. The whole mateship was something that was really interesting, and that took me a bit of time to actually get on board with, to be honest.
And I guess networking and relationship building would play an important part.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is career development has a lot to do with relationship and networking.
Right.
Yes, Seek is wonderful, and you should definitely use it as a first point of contact, but don't forget your network. Don't forget, other people that you may not know have currently looking for somebody, but they may be, and not everything is going through Seek. Far from it.
Right. So network relationships. I have this idea that really. I guess CVs and resumes are so 2017, and today it is about relationships so much more. It's really developing those long-term relationships with people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So long-term relationships are very beneficial. Resume, yes, absolutely. Look, you should have one. Ultimately, everybody should have one. But the reality is, I'm seeing right now when we're going through a recruitment exercise, resume are only the first step. It gets your foot in the door. But the next thing we will be checking is, your LinkedIn profile. What have you been achieving? Did you publish anything?
Right.
Did you contribute to project? Did you, behavioral testing? I mean, it's a lot more than just a resume. Getting a job is a lot more.
Right. So it's about the relationships. I guess people working in IT, it's dangerous to generalize, but people who do work in IT tend to, in a sense, find it a little bit more difficult to get out and network and relationship with people. It can be a little bit intimidating or frightening. Any thoughts on that, on how you can overcome that, or?
I totally agree. There is this big thing about every single IT person being an introvert. That is not the case. But ultimately, I think there's not really a recipe to actually get out there. I mean, I was very much like that. I'm not really an extrovert, far from it. But if you are in that situation and you are fearful, by all means, put your first feet forward, take the first step, go to an event. The first time it's a little bit scary to talk to somebody, but talk to somebody.
Right.
And after that it gets easier.
Okay, great. So it's a bit of experience and just a bit of going along to events.
Yes, and
making the contact, initiating the contact.
And I can highly recommend Toastmasters.
Okay.
That is a great way for you to get out of your shell and actually start talking to people.
Right.
They will force you to talk to people. That's basically
Right.
what it's all about.
So for our audience who may not be aware, Toastmasters is a public speaking group that people go along to Toastmasters and they learn to speak to other people at Toastmasters.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Charles, how much do you feel that luck has played in your success?
Oh, I'd like to say that it had nothing to do with it. I'll probably be lying. No, I think it had actually a lot to do. In a way, I was lucky to be at the right place at the right time for quite a few points along my career. So I did benefit from that, but I don't think that you can make it all the way to the top purely on luck. That just does not exist. You may get yourself a position of importance through luck, but you will not keep it with pure luck.
Right. So the other side of that then is it's your skill, your experience.
Absolutely, your skill, your professional development. I mean, in IT, it never stops. So you are only current as what you did, what your last project is, and what you're working on right now. Unfortunately, it is that kind of field, and there's not much we can do about it.
So if we just talk about luck for a few moments, do you have any advice for people about how they might be able to create luck
Look, you mentioned networking, and that's definitely something that I would recommend to anybody. By all means, look, if you are listening to this webinar, I assume you are a member of the ACS or you are thinking about joining the ACS. By all means, they have quite a few networking events regularly. I can only promote it and tell you to go and join. I mean, it's definitely a great introduction. You can supplement that with whatever other myriad of services there are to network, but I can only recommend it.
Beautiful, thank you. You've talked about networking, and I guess I want to follow on from that and ask, can you give any examples of mentors who have helped you on your career journey?
Actually, formally, I only managed to lock a mentor in the last 2 months. So, but practically, I think I was really lucky. I didn't have mentor per se, but I think that I used most of my manager or the previous persons that were managing me as mentors. When I started, for example, in consulting, I started in consulting under somebody that actually gave me great recommendation. I mean, I started in consulting, and basically the only thing I had is an ABN and not much idea. I know that I wanted to consult in IT and I wanted to be a consultant. There was work going around. I knew that person. I managed to get a job under this company. But I was not really organized, and I learned so much in terms of client relationship, what it means to actually organize your finance the proper way. How do you actually manage a client? How do you actually make sure that you're paid? How do you make sure that you're actually covering yourself? All these are the things that are parallel to actually performing the job. But as a consultant, you need to know insurances, all this kind of other things.
So I guess really in a way, education plays an important part, experience plays an important part, but having a good mentor is
absolutely
also,
it's very important.
So would you have any advice for our audience, who want to progress in their IT careers about what they would do in terms of getting a mentor or what they would look for?
Well, I know that ACS has a mentorship program, so that's always the first avenue. Right. If you are currently in employment, it depends the organization, but quite often talk to your manager or talk to the person responsible of IT. You will be surprised. More often than not, they are more than happy to help and provide mentorship. If they don't do it themselves, they may get somebody else to do it. But when you are going, I think the main advice I can give is if you are going into a mentorship and you are looking for a mentor, know what you are looking for.
Right.
What do you want to become?
What you want to achieve? What is your objective and the qualities? Yeah.
Don't concentrate on what you're doing right now. Concentrate on where you want to be and try to find that person, because they will give you the advice and the roadmap to get there.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. You currently work for organisation BCI here in Brisbane, and your role is CTO, a Chief Technology Officer. I wonder if you could just tell the audience a little bit about what that role is and some of the main activities involved in your job.
Sure. Yes. So I suppose my company, I should probably explain a few things, because my company is actually a consulting company. And despite being the CTO, we are also consultants. So I'm probably a little bit different from most of the CTO out there, as in part of my work is actually carrying out assignment for the company. So yes, I am doing consulting in terms of helping clients with their problems, but I'm also internally focused. So I also manage internal project. A lot of what I'm doing at the moment has to do with, yes, project management, strategy, roadmap, budgeting, policies. BCI Technology does not have a CIO, so the CTO position is a little bit strange on that front. That quite a few of the CIO responsibility fall onto the CTO.
Okay, great. Wow, sounds like you've got a lot of variety.
There is an extreme amount of variety, and that's what makes actually that role so interesting.
Beautiful, thank you. Looking back at your career, what do you feel have been some of your greatest successes? And if you could maybe just speak to an example and something that you learned from that.
Greatest successes, I think. Greatest success is successful delivery of project. And when I mean successful delivery of project, I'm talking about customer project, but I'm also talking about internal project. I mean, having a team that actually work together, that sometimes doesn't think that they can actually achieve what they asked to do, and then still going through this whole process from, initiation all the way to delivery and then to BAU. And actually getting something up and running, and actually seeing all the people being really, how to say, it's kind of like watching a kid grow up, and seeing that going on. I think it's, I'm not going to say that every project are successful, but look, when they are, it's kind of, you have like these magical moments, and it's not only towards the end. It's not when you're delivering it. I mean, delivery is basically in each IT project, it's terrible. There's stress, there's last minute things and this and that, but there are this specific, time during the project where you're like, wow, okay, this is something great is happening here.
Yeah, great. You talked about project success before, and some of the successful projects. How would you characterize a successful project in terms of the attributes that makes it successful? I guess people are important.
Look, you always have the three tenets on a project, which are your cost, your time frame,
quality and scope.
Yeah. And you seem to always have to somehow compromise one of them to be able to achieve the other two, or even compromise to achieve one, which you should never do. But at the end of the day, these are really the three tenets you should really pay attention to. If you can get three of them right, usually you're towards success. I mean, you always want to deliver on time. You always want to deliver the scope of project that you're supposed to deliver. You don't want to deliver the watered down solution. And what you really want to do is make sure that the people you start with are still around by the end of the project.
Awesome, thank you. Can you give an example of a time where you've had a failure, and what have you learned from it?
A time I had a failure. You can never be prepared enough. Literally, no plan will. I think it's Churchill that says that no plan will survive contact with the enemy. And that's very much true. It doesn't matter how much you plan. It doesn't matter how much you think you are prepared. Once a project is starting, it's a movable feast. There will be problems, there will be delays, there will be things like that, and that's something that you only learn when you actually fail a project. Unfortunately, it seems like everything is going well. It seems like you're on track, and then something happens.
Right.
The reality is, like in every project, something will always happen.
Right, so I guess the key learning there is about being situationally aware in the project of what's happening. If things start going diverging from the plan, and then being able to correct that as early as possible, because the sooner you can correct.
Plans a work, work's a plan.
Yeah, okay, beautiful.
Absolutely.
Charles, how would others describe you?
That's a scary thought. I don't know. I haven't asked them, to be honest. Probably slightly workaholic.
Right.
But other than that, no. I hope focus. Am I able? Fair. I hope I am. I don't know. I think I am.
Okay.
I'm too scared to ask them.
Okay, great. And you're in this role as a Chief Technology Officer. Earlier you mentioned about the CIO type, I guess, role as well with that. What do you think are some of the key attributes of a successful upper manager?
Situational awareness.
Right. And can you just explain to our audience, they may not be aware of what that means? That means knowing what's going on around you.
Exactly. Right. So a lot, as you progress through management, at least in my experience, a lot of what you have to do changes. So, I mean, I started as a developer originally, and what you are exposed to in a lower role is totally different than when you're exposed to in a higher management role.
Right.
So I remember being in meetings and hearing about things, and I was like, why are we doing things that way? That doesn't seem to be logical or even efficient. And as you move through up, you are more exposed to all this.
Right.
So you are finding out that, why did we do it that way? That seems completely counterintuitive. Well, there was a good reason behind that. And you need to be aware of that reason. Of course, information doesn't always flow down the way it should. So the people who are implementing a feature in a software may not know why this feature was even requested in the first place. But if you go back up, you will realize that, oh, well, wait a second, there is a compliance requirements for that particular feature, that it is actually something we need to do. We don't have a choice. So being aware of that is a big thing. To be successful in your role, I suppose, is really do what you say you're going to do. And be realistic about objective. Don't overpromise and under-deliver. That is one thing that is a deadly sin.
Yeah. With IT professionals, you mentioned before that you used to do software development. People, I guess, in those kinds of roles are very detailed orientated, and then you move into a role where you're dealing with a lot of people, you're getting a whole lot of information. So I guess the question now is, how do you manage that avalanche of information? If you're in a meeting with a lot of people and there's a lot of talking, how do you pick out the things that are important or the things that you need to remember? Do you have any sort of strategies that you use?
Not particularly strategy. I think a good notebook and a pen are always savior. OneNote, I am a big fan of OneNote, and that helps tremendously. Okay. But I would say listen pay attention to everybody in the room, even the people that are not always talking. They may be your most important stakeholder without you realizing it. And ask questions.
Right.
Do not be scared to ask questions. I've seen that, and again, that has a little bit to do with the international background and the change of culture in Australia. Where I come from, and I've seen that in other people from international background, sometimes you're a little bit scared to ask a question. You're like, oh, what if my question is stupid? And what if it's not appropriate? Or what it's not? And then you end up in a meeting with purely Australian, and they will blurt out question after question, and they don't seem to really care. So,
okay,
I mean, don't be shy. Just ask a question. There's no stupid question in this world.
Okay, thank you. We talked before a little bit about the key attributes of a successful manager and upper manager. I just want to follow on from that and ask you, what does leadership mean to you? And what are some of the attributes of an effective leader?
I'm maybe old-fashioned, but I really believe in leading by example. What I try to do is, if I'm asking for a team member to do a particular task or a particular set of effort, because something needs to be done tomorrow, I will expect to do at least as much work as what they will do. So it's really hard moving into management. You kind of, unfortunately, have to give a part of your technical skill, simply because there's not enough hours in a day for you to be able to keep on maintaining them. But I do believe that doing should definitely be part of a manager role.
Right.
Listen to your team. Ultimately, you're not there to fight them. They're not there to screw project for you or make you look bad. Select the right people. Select people you can work with, and then, I mean, then it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's easy, but
it's easier.
It is definitely easier.
Yeah, fantastic. You're in a upper management role now, and there'll be members of our audience today who want to move into an upper management role. What advice would you give people who want to move into a senior role, upper management leadership type role?
That's a good question. I would say talk to your manager. I mean, it really depends the organization. Look, some managers take it really bad, but talk to your manager. In your performance review, mention that I'd like to grow. What can I do? But the main recommendation that I can do is like, do your job well. Participate as little as possible in office politics. That is really something that, it's sometimes works very well for people, but more often than not, it doesn't.
Right.
Try to be proactive.
Yep.
So if you find something that is deficient, if you find something that can be improved, actually propose it. What's the worst that can happen? The idea is not taken up. But that could lead to you having to implement that through a project, and that's the best way to actually prove that I can take on more responsibility.
Right.
Don't hesitate to raise your hand. I think that give you big plus points. In big organization, we're not like that, but in big organization, I know that there is opportunities often to actually act up to a level. Raise your hand for that if you can, because look, it may just be acting up. You may just be there for a month or two or something like that, but the knowledge that you're gaining will help you moving back into your role and eventually progressing forward.
Okay, fantastic. And so I guess I've heard you talk about talk to your manager, don't participate in office politics. And I think most importantly, what I've heard you say is, if you see a problem, take the initiative, talk to people, see how you can solve it, and in that way you act up, and you also demonstrate sort of like this motivation initiative, and the desire to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful advice. That's great advice. And I guess to just going back a step, I guess the mentor again could also be quite useful. Finding out, having someone where you want to be, and then helping you to know the steps you should take to move in that direction.
Absolutely. And if there's something that you don't know or that you don't understand, by all means, ask question.
Right.
I mean,
okay.
like I said before, there's no stupid question. What's the worst that can happen? You don't get an answer. I mean, that's really it.
That's really it. Yeah. Great advice, Charles. You mentioned before about how BCI is currently undergoing a recruitment drive. And I just want to ask you a little bit more about what you look for when recruiting someone into an IT role. You mentioned looking, apart from the application, you look at their LinkedIn profile, also about the sorts of roles they've done most recently, research, I think you mentioned. Are there other attributes that are important when you look for a person?
I think I'll probably more talk in terms of advice than anything else. You will be asked for a resume. I mean, we do ask for a resume. Most companies do. The worst thing you can do is have a resume that doesn't match your LinkedIn profile. That's a big no-no. That's throw up red flags everywhere. So if you are looking right now at this webinar and you're thinking, hey, I am interested in getting recruited by an agency, make sure you update your LinkedIn.
And keep it aligned.
And keep it aligned to your resume.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that's the first step. We usually go through the resumes. We actually do check our candidate quite extensively. From what I heard from other people that I work with regularly, we kind of go a little beyond and above most recruitment practices. If we are interested, if we think that your career and your experience and your degrees match what we're looking for, usually what we do is we give you a phone call,
right.
We have an interview. We like to actually have people face to face.
Yep.
So that's a big plus. That demonstrates a lot of things. I mean, just being able to see somebody look at somebody in the eye, talk about something, and during the conversation, things may go off topic or one way or the other.
But you
get a feel for the person.
Right.
Then we usually go through, I think, behavioral testing, and I'm not too sure which methodology we're using.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Behavioral testing.
Behavioral testing.
So I'm not too sure. I'm not too across that, so I don't know.
Sure.
But that gives us an idea, really, of what kind of person you are, really, at the end of the day. And then I think we have one final interview just to make sure that we polish up everything and that we give feedback.
And then you go from there. Some of our audience today might well say, well, they get so nervous when they go to an interview, the questions. And any thoughts there about what advice you might give them?
Look, it's easy advice when you have a job. It's totally different situation when you don't have one. But I will say, don't be scared.
So
be yourself.
Treat it as an opportunity, as an adventure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Look, more often than not, in an interview, you will be offered, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Worst case scenario, you're not going to get that job. Right? That's the worst that can happen. Most of the time when you go to an interview, you offer tea, coffee, sometimes cookies. See it that way. You're getting a free drink. Just go, enjoy the ride. The worst that can happen is that you don't get the job. If you don't get the job, too bad, but there will be another one.
Right, and I guess also one of the benefits from going to an interview is that it gives you experience and practice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, never pass on an interview. Even if the job is not successful, the best thing you can do is actually learn from it. So
go along and just
go along, see what type of question you're getting. You will get the same question usually in most interviews, especially if it's for a specific role. It depends for a generalist role, but more often than not, you will find out, I don't know. Let's take an example from a sysadmin perspective. You will get mostly the same question at each and every interview. That actually give you a good idea of what you need to look for. I also recommend Google. I mean, Dr. Google is fantastic.
For questions.
Search interview question for the role you're actually
Right.
applying for. You will find out that, recruiters do exactly the same thing.
Okay.
So look at them, try to familiarize them, prepare answer even if you want to go that far. It's all pluses.
I want to test an idea with you. The idea is that often people hate being sold to. So if you go into an interview, you're told sell yourself in the interview. Do you agree that you should sort of like sell yourself? I know that's a little bit of a hard question. Or is it more important just to relax, be yourself?
I totally understand where the recommendation come from. Sell yourself, because ultimately it is important to be able to sell.
Right.
Demonstrating that is important too. But I think what recruiters are really looking for is authenticity. Be yourself,
Right.
truly.
Okay.
If you're shy, that's fine. Just don't be overly shy during the presentation. If you need a second to think for an answer, absolutely take it. It's absolutely acceptable.
Okay.
But just be yourself. Don't try to portray somebody you're not,
Okay.
because what it's going to do is that the recruiter will actually think, well, this person doesn't really. They will know. On top, it's like, oh, this person is not really genuine. I don't think they are a good fit for the organization.
Right.
And you really need to have done your homework, because if you're going to play a different character, how do you know that that is what the organization is actually looking for?
Right. And I guess by just being your authentic self, you can also get a sense of their values and whether they will actually match you.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want to go into a role that you'd be unhappy with and mismatched to. And
Definitely.
Similarly for them, they don't want an employee that's mismatched.
And that's an important point.
Authenticity.
So it's working both ways.
Okay. Great.
Yes, a company is looking for somebody.
Right.
But you don't want to end up working for a company you hate. So it's the interview is not just a company offering you a job. It's a way for both parties to be able to evaluate each other.
And talk. Wonderful advice. This is one for our students. I've often heard it said that students often complain that they cannot get a job until they have experience. And they cannot get experience until they've worked in a job. So it's a real dilemma.
It is.
What advice would you give the students?
I know it's difficult, actually, simply because I can see, looking at ads once in a while, you literally see 5 experience required, 10 experience required in that role previously. That is very, very hard for a young graduate. I'm not going to lie to you, it is. Graduate program are a great thing if you can get one. I know that it's not offered everywhere, and if you're not working in a capital city, it's actually very hard to get one. But I will make the same actually recommendations that I made to other people in the past. Volunteering. It seems counterproductive, but listen to me for 1 second. There are plenty of associations out there that are actually looking for IT people, and it may be just managing desktop, just maintaining their website, just putting a hand out there in everything IT related. No, you're probably not going to get paid, and that's fair. But I would say look into that, because honestly, as a young graduate, if you manage to do some volunteering work and you can put forward a reference with people that are actually able to justify what you've been doing and how well you've been doing it, and look, the reality is association and non-for-profit are actually very good at, they are a great source of reference. To be honest with you, I mean, these people do it for free and they're passionate with what they're doing, and if you're doing a good job for them, they're usually more than happy to give you a good reference, and that does make a difference, and that gives you this extra bit more that you can get, and you will be facing actual real situation, not theoretical uni-based perfect word situation.
Thanks. And I think you mentioned before about how you got a internship at one point early in your career.
Yes. Well, my university back in France, it's very different. In France, internship is a very big thing. So you have internship at the end of your bachelor degree, and you have an internship at the end of your master degree, and they're both compulsory and they're part of the degree.
Okay, great. And I guess too, coming back to relationships again is very important for students who want to get into that first role.
Absolutely. Look, it's I can't have it enough. I didn't realize how important networking was until I actually got involved and looked at it myself. So.
What was the experience with networking? Once you got involved, did things kind of just start opening up, or
It won't happen from one day to the next. I mean, you're not going to go to an event and present yourself and shake off your hand and say, hello, who are you? What are you doing? Well, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And it's not going to be, the next day you're going to be flooding with job offers. That's not how it works. But work your network. I mean, be a regular at something. Try to know the people. Try to find out who's interested in what they're doing. You may end up working for a company that is then, I don't know, selling a piece of software that then can help that particular person that you already know. And things like that. I don't know, it's hard to define networking and the benefit of networking.
Right, but it's certainly, I guess networking, it's really about meeting people, building relationships, building awareness, both in terms of their problems, in terms of your capabilities, cultivating and keeping those relationships alive and going, and in time, out of that will come relationships of trust, and from those relationships of trust will come great opportunities.
Look, alumni network are also really good.
Sorry?
Alumni,
yeah. So like
universities or whatever school, they're also great to leverage as well. And it's usually people that have the same background as you, so it's much easier to get along with.
Right, and to find out what's happening. That's wonderful. Charles, as we come towards the end of this wonderful webinar, could you offer 4 or 5 key lessons that you would like to share with others who want career success?
I think we've gone through most of them, to be honest. Be yourself. Really, that's actually one of the best things. Yep. It's a big thing. Just be proactive. I mean, ultimately, you manage your career. It's all, I mean, you are the product. So I won't say sell yourself, but, if you want to become what you want to be, work on it. Read. I mean,
study it, learn
study, self-studies. It's so easy nowadays to be able to do that. I mean, you have vendor certification, but you have also online course. You have Udemy, you have Coursera, you have plenty of others. Leverage that. It's important. I mean, no, I think that's really it.
Great. Thank you so much. Audience, thank you for your participation today. It's now time for you to ask your questions, which we would invite. So, Charles, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to ask questions. So please send your questions in. While we're waiting for your questions, I just want to ask Charles a little bit about the ACS. It has a brand of inspiring our next tech superheroes. Think ahead, create the future, change the world. What does this mean to you, and how do you see it applying to others? That's a big question.
That's a big question. I didn't see that one coming. Think ahead, create the future. Well, IT is convenient for this kind of things. I mean, thinking ahead, that's really what you will be asked to do in IT. Think to what doesn't exist. Think to what is needed in the future. That's how I interpret it. Change the world. I'm not sure if IT alone has the power to do that. If it does, by all means, that's great, and strive for that. But I don't know. The next tech superheroes, I think it's more. It's more. I don't know. I've seen the numbers. I mean, like you. I think you were as well at the last Deloitte presentation about the state of IT in Australia.
Yeah.
And we see that there is actually very little people taking on IT. So if you're watching this webinar and you are currently studying IT, congratulations, you made the right choice. Yes, I mean, we need more probably thinker and people that are concentrating in the future. I mean, there's no reason that the United States can have a Steve Jobs and everybody else, and there is not one that can be born in Australia. I don't see what's stopping that. So.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I guess we could almost encapsulate the brand in terms of a comment you made earlier about career progression, where when you're in an organization, to look for a problem, look for something that you can do. And
there are plenty in any organization, so that shouldn't be too hard.
And that really encapsulates thinking ahead, creating the future.
Absolutely.
And not so much changing the world, but changing the organization at least. So
you don't have to be groundbreaking. Improving things is a good target.
Yeah, great stuff. And just finally, would you like to share any other thoughts or advice with our audience today?
I don't know. I
think you've shared pretty much that? Okay.
I have been.
Well, look, thank you. We'll just I might just ask Kylie here to assist me with finding any questions you might have. Okay, this is a question from Gianfranco Santoro to all panelists. And Gianfranco makes a comment about the right self-study niche skills. Thanks for all the suggestions. So I guess, we take from that, it's about finding, your own niche and then working and studying within that.
Absolutely.
And I guess following your passion in a way.
Definitely. Look, IT is a very vast field, and really there is so much things that you can study in IT. So finding what you want to do and basically developing yourself in there. You do not, I'm gonna get in trouble now, but uni degree will give you, I think they are a good thing. They will give you the basics. They will basically teach you the foundation of what you need to know. But after that, your journey is yours. Take it wherever it takes you. If you want to do AI, there are myriad of resources out there that can teach you that. If you want to be more on the data center side, there is plenty of things that can teach you that. If you want to be a sysadmin, there is also plenty of things. Honestly, the internet is wonderful. I wish it was at that state when I was 18. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. We just see a sort of bit of follow-on there. I think Gianfranco is kind of just making a comment about linking, about finding that organization opportunity, that problem, and then linking to that, and then trying to solve that problem within the organization, which is something you kind of mentioned before.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's so important.
Can I just pop in here and just say a little
Yes, sure.
I think also something to mention is probably the benefits in staying part of a professional organisation throughout your career, and using that as your stepping stone, as you would for a lawyer, an accountant, or an engineer. You've got to keep up to date and skilled, and look for opportunities to be certified. For example, you're a certified professional with the ACS, and it just opens a few more doors for you. And you can put that placard on your window to say. So if you want to maybe just elaborate on that a little more, and if anyone's got any questions about that.
I've been a member of the Australian Computer Society for many years now, and that's been a really great opportunity. So I would recommend our audience to engage with the Computer Society, attend the events, network with people. It's just amazing. The sorts of people you'll meet who are in different roles, the sorts of intelligence you can get from them about what's happening in an area that you're interested in. And just on that note, I think, is that about?
There's no more questions. Are there any more questions that people would like to throw out? We're just about ready to wrap up.
If you have a question, we'll just wait a few moments. Just while we're waiting for any more, Charles, your sense of the IT industry and where it's going, do you have any general themes that you see within the industry?
In the short to medium term, there seems to be a big push toward artificial intelligence.
Robotics as well. Data.
Robotics as well, definitely. I don't know. I'm not hearing so much about the big data thing anymore.
Okay,
it seems to have slowed down a little bit for some reason.
Yeah.
Not that it's not needed. I think it's just the marketing wave is over.
Is over
on this one.
It's going to business as usual almost. Organisations are doing it, but it's not.
It's not advertised so much anymore. Sure. No, that's really. Look, I mean, autonomous vehicles, all that. There's plenty, like bioinformatics, edge computing. Even though I'm still struggling a little bit to understand how is that revolutionize things, but yes, no, there's plenty going on. I mean,
right. Well, thank you, Charles,
for
your wonderful insights today. They've been incredible.
Really?
And certainly, I guess, learning from people who have done the career and learning about, their advice and their experiences is really invaluable for our audience, and it will give everyone an idea or a takeaway that they can take and then apply as they move forward with the career. So thank you for your time today. Thanks also to Kylie and to the Australian Computer Society here in Queensland, and of course to you, the audience, who have participated in this webinar today. We hope you have a good day, and this now concludes our broadcast. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.